Ladies and gentlemen, let me start with a little truth bomb. You're not going to build your dream life chasing people. You build it by chasing goals. And I know this might sound obvious, but let's be honest. It's so easy to lose focus. You get caught up in trying to impress, trying to belong, trying to be seen, liked, chosen. You start adapting to other people's opinions, their timelines, their definitions of success. But here's the deal. Your life isn't a group project, and your future doesn't need everyone's permission. Let me ask you, when was the last time you looked at your goals and asked, am I doing this for me or am I doing this to be accepted? Because there's a difference between being inspired and being distracted. And most people, without even realizing it, are chasing people who don't even know what they want. Here's the thing. When you chase people, you give away your power. You let your confidence ride on whether or not someone texts you back, claps for you, promotes you, loves you, includes you. Yick. And that's exhausting. You're not built to be in constant performance mode. You're built to grow, to build. And you can't do any of that if your eyes are locked on someone else's reaction. When you shift your energy back to your goals, something wild happens. You start moving differently. You start showing up for yourself. And instead of wondering, do they like me? You start asking, am I proud of me? That's the shift that changes everything. Now let me be clear. I'm not saying people don't matter. Relationships are important. Support matters. But here's what I am saying. When you focus on becoming the person who is living their goals, you naturally attract the people who are meant to walk that path with you. You don't have to chase them. They recognize you. They feel your drive. They respect your focus. But if you spend all your time people-pleasing, editing yourself, or hustling for someone's attention, you're draining energy that should be fueling your purpose. You're putting your worth in someone else's hands. And I don't know about you, but that sounds like a terrible investment strategy. You need to stop negotiating your value and start demonstrating it through action, through consistency, through commitment to your goals. The people who are meant to be in your corner will respect your boundaries. They won't need constant convincing. And the ones who disappear when you stop chasing and you stop chasing. Let them go. They were never going to help you build anyway. Let's make something really clear. Your goals will give you more than any relationship rooted in insecurity ever will. Your goals will teach you discipline. They'll teach you patience. They'll teach you how to fail forward, how to stand tall, how to rebuild after rejection. And most importantly, they'll teach you who you really are when no one's watching, when no one's clapping, when it's just you and the dream that won't leave you alone. That's why I say, chase goals, not people. Because when you chase goals, you're in control. You're not reacting to someone else's opinion. You're not waiting to be picked. You pick yourself. And when you do that, when you go all in on you, you become unstoppable. The attention you were chasing, you won't need it. You'll be too busy becoming the person you were always meant to be. So today, I want you to walk away with this. Stop trying to be liked and start trying to be legendary. Be the person who shows up for their vision. Be the one who doesn't beg for seats at tables. They build their own. Because at the end of the day, chasing people might get you moments of approval, but chasing goals, that gets you freedom. People aren't goals. And that distinction, though simple, is life-changing once you truly get it. There is a dangerous trap that so many of us fall into. We confuse the pursuit of people with the pursuit of purpose. We start chasing validation, affection, acceptance, applause, thinking that if we can just get them to love us, choose us, approve of us, then we'll finally feel like we're enough. But let's be clear, people can't be the prize. Not because relationships don't matter, but because they should never be your destination. They're part of the journey. They're companions, co-creators, contributors, not the target. When you put people on pedestals, you build your whole self-worth on something unstable. You start measuring your value by how close you are to them, how much attention they give you, how often they show up. And the moment they don't respond, don't support, or don't meet your expectations, you crumble because your confidence wasn't built on your goals. It was built on them. And here's the problem. People are unpredictable. They're flawed. They're living their own lives. And when you tie your identity to them, your power swings like a pendulum depending on what they do. That's why clarity on your own goals is essential. When you have clear, aligned personal goals, goals that reflect who you are, what you value, what you want to create, you become anchored. grounded. You stop floating from one person to the next, hoping they'll give you direction. You become your own compass. And let me tell you something. The second you get clear on your goals, everything starts to shift. You stop bending over backward to be liked. You stop contorting yourself to be included. You stop shrinking to keep the peace. You start owning your space. It's not selfish to prioritize your goals. Girls. It's necessary. Because when you don't, you become a shapeshifter, a people pleaser, a chameleon that molds to everyone else's expectations. And sure, you might be liked. You might even be admired. But deep down, you'll feel it. That ache of being disconnected from your real self. You'll be tired, anxious, frustrated. Not because you're broken, but because you've been chasing people instead of chasing what lights your soul on fire. The truth is, when you live in alignment with your goals, the right people start to find you. Not because you're chasing them, but because your clarity becomes magnetic. People are drawn to direction, to purpose, to energy. So instead of trying to prove your worth to someone else, show it by building something that reflects your passion, by living a life that's consistent with your standards, by walking your talk, because real connection is never the result of performance. It's the result of authenticity. And there's nothing more authentic than someone fully committed to their own mission. When you stop chasing people, something else incredible happens. You start trusting yourself. You stop outsourcing your decisions to other people's opinions. You start asking better questions. What do I want? What does success look like for me? What legacy do I want to leave behind? And those questions, they lead to answers that actually matter, answers that create meaning, not just popularity. There's freedom in this shift, emotional freedom, creative freedom, mental freedom. Because when you're chasing people, your mind is constantly scanning for signs of rejection, constantly performing mental gymnastics to avoid upsetting others, constantly adjusting your behavior to be more likable. But when you chase your goals, your mind gets quiet, focused, intentional. You move from anxious energy to aligned energy, and that alignment changes the way you show up. You're not trying to win anyone. You're building something so powerful that the right people want to be part of it without you begging for it. Let's get brutally honest. Most of us weren't taught how to chase goals. We were taught how to chase approval. Gold stars, good grades, likes, follows. We were conditioned to believe that being accepted was the highest reward. But that mindset is a cage. Because the more you seek approval, the less you live in your truth. That's why it's so crucial to unlearn it. To break the habit of chasing people and replace it with the habit of chasing purpose. It's not easy, but it is transformational. So if you've been stuck, if you've been bending, if you've been waiting for someone to finally choose you, choose to yourself. Choose your vision to build something, to leave something behind that reflects who you truly are. And you don't do that by chasing people. You do it by chasing your goals relentlessly, unapologetically, day after day. Not for applause, not for likes, but because it's who you are, because it's what you're here to do. When you're truly locked in on your goals, something radical happens. Your entire energy changes. You stop chasing people because you're too busy chasing your purpose. And the amazing part, that's exactly when the right people start showing up. Not the ones who come around because you begged, impressed, or convinced them. No, the ones who show up because you didn't. Because your focus, your clarity, your drive, it speaks for you louder than words ever could. People are drawn to those who are clear. It's magnetic. There's something about watching someone chase something bigger than themselves. Someone who is too committed to growth to get caught up in drama or ego or approval. And when you become that person, when you go all in on your mission, you stop wondering where everybody went. You start realizing that the ones who matter show up when you stop performing. They show up when you start being. The reason this happens is simple. Chasing people comes from a place of lack. It's you saying, I'm not enough unless you're in my life. It's rooted in insecurity, in fear, in the need to be validated. But chasing goals, that comes from a place of vision. That's confidence. That's you saying, I'm building something, and anyone who's aligned is welcome to join me, but I'm not waiting. That kind of energy doesn't beg. It doesn't manipulate. It doesn't cling. It creates. It leads. It elevates the whole room without trying. Most of us have been taught to chase relationships, chase friendships, chase love, chase social status. It starts early, be popular, be accepted, be liked. See, be like. And while connection is a human need, chasing people for it is a human mistake because connection doesn't come from pursuit. It comes from alignment. When your energy is grounded in something real, your passion, your principles, your goals, it sends out a frequency. The people who resonate with that frequency will find you, and they'll find you without you needing to dim your light, shrink your dreams, or change who you are. Think about this. When have you felt the most magnetic, the most respected, the most attractive? It wasn't when you were trying to prove something to someone. It was when you were so in tune with your goals, so in flow with your growth, that you forgot to worry about what people thought. That's the version of you that builds real relationships because it's not a version. It's the real you. You. When you chase people, you compromise. You say yes to things that don't serve you. You overextend. You settle. You move your boundaries around like furniture just to keep someone comfortable. But when you're chasing goals, you become consistent. You say no with confidence. You say no with confidence. You stay rooted in your standards. And guess what? The right people respect that. The wrong ones might walk away. But that's not a loss. It's clarity. You can't build a strong life with people who only like you when you're small. And look, this doesn't mean you become cold or closed off or disconnected. It means you become selective. You start understanding that your time, your energy, your focus, those things are sacred. You don't just give them away to whoever shows up. You protect them. You direct them. You use them to build something that reflects your purpose. And in doing so, you give others permission to do the same. Chasing goals also changes the way you communicate. When you're focused on your growth, your words come from a deeper place. You speak from experience, from clarity, from purpose. People feel that. They trust it. They want to be around it, not because you asked, but because you embody something real. And that's what people crave. Authenticity, direction, inspiration. Not perfection. Not popularity. Just presence. And here's the best part: when you stop chasing people, you start attracting better ones. Not just in relationships, but in business, in friendship, in opportunity. Because the energy of someone who's grounded in purpose is undeniable. It cuts through the noise. It stands out. People can sense when you're on your path. And whether they walk with you or not, they respect that you're walking it. That's the win. That's the shift. That's the magic of chasing your goals over people. You stop being a seeker and start being a signal. You stop hustling for belonging and start building something worth belonging to. And the people who are meant to be there, they'll recognize you. They'll respect your space, your focus, your ambition. They won't need you to chase them. They'll meet you on the path. So don't worry about who's showing up right now. Worry about what you're showing up for. If the room you're in doesn't get it, build your own. If the people around you don't support the mission, keep moving. Because the ones who are aligned, they won't make you chase them. They'll be running toward the same vision with the same fire in their eyes, and you'll know it. It's part of the process. You're not internalizing it. You're analyzing it. That resilience makes you unstoppable because now you're not afraid to try. You're not paralyzed by what ifs or what they thinks. You're in motion. Confidence isn't about walking into a room and thinking you're better than everyone else. It's about walking into a room and not needing to compare yourself to anyone at all. And you only get there by doing the hard, unglamorous, behind the scenes work of chasing your goals when nobody else cares. That's where real self-belief is forged, in the repetition, in the grind, in the silence. So stop handing your power over to people who can't even decide what they want for lunch. Stop building castles in the sky, hoping someone will come live in them with you. Get grounded. Get focused. Get serious about your goals, because that's how you go from anxious to empowered, from unsure to unshakable, from scattered to unstoppable. Confidence isn't found in someone else's eyes. It's found in the reflection of who you become when you decide your life is worth showing up for, fully, consistently, unapologetically. Don't wait for someone to choose you. Choose your goals and watch how your whole life starts to rise. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone. This is perhaps one of the most freeing realizations you can have, yet it's one that so many people struggle with. We live in a world that constantly tells us we need to seek approval from others. Whether it's from family, friends, peers, social media followers, or even colleagues, there's an overwhelming pressure to meet someone else's standards of success, happiness, or value. We find ourselves bending over backward to gain recognition or to feel validated, but here's the harsh truth. Proving your worth is a never-ending cycle. It's exhausting, disempowering, and ultimately, it doesn't bring you the satisfaction you think it will. Here's the thing, your worth is inherent. It's already within you. It doesn't need to be earned or proven. It's not conditional on other people's opinions of you. Your value doesn't fluctuate based on someone else's approval, attention, or praise. The moment you realize this, everything changes. You no longer need to seek validation from others because you already understand your intrinsic worth. The energy you once spent proving yourself can now be redirected to something much more productive, your goals. Imagine waking up every day with a sense of purpose, knowing exactly what you're working toward without any need for external validation. When you're focused on your goals, you stop looking to others for permission. You stop questioning whether you're good enough. Instead, you trust yourself enough to take the next step, even if the world around you isn't cheering you on. You don't need their applause. You don't need their praise. You have your own internal motivation driving you forward. This is the power of pursuing your goals. When you chase goals instead of approval, you become your own source of validation. Your worth isn't tied to how many likes you get, how many people agree with you, or how much recognition you receive. It's tied to your internal sense of purpose, to your willingness to show up and do the work, even when no one is watching. This kind of self-assurance comes from knowing that you are enough exactly as you are, and that your efforts are valid because they align with your vision, not because they align with someone else's idea of what you should be doing. The truth is, when you stop seeking approval, you become more authentic. You start to take action from a place of genuine passion, not fear of judgment or rejection. You begin making decisions based on what you want, not what others expect or demand from you. This authenticity allows you to show up as your true self, and when you do that, the right people are drawn to you naturally. You attract the kind of relationships, collaborations, and opportunities that are in alignment with your values and goals. The people who will be in your corner won't be there because you've spent hours trying to win them over. They'll be there because they see the real you, the person who is unapologetically pursuing their purpose. Pursuing your goals with this level of confidence also changes the way you deal with setbacks. When your worth is tied to the approval of others, any rejection or failure feels like a direct reflection of your value. It's personal. But when you're focused on your goals, setbacks become part of the process. They no longer affect your self-worth. They simply provide you with valuable feedback and a chance to improve. You stop taking things personally. Instead, you learn, adapt, and keep moving forward. Your self-worth is no longer in question because you've already decided that you are worthy of the pursuit. And here's the incredible thing. When you start showing up for your goals without needing to prove anything to anyone, you begin to attract people who are aligned with that energy. You become magnetic, not because you're trying to be, but because you're embodying something real. You're living with purpose, and that kind of energy is contagious. People who are truly meant to be a part of your journey will recognize that drive, that authenticity, and that confidence. They'll see someone who knows their value, who is taking action based on their own vision, not someone who's trying to fit into someone else's mold. And those are the kinds of people who will support you, collaborate with you, and challenge you to become even better. One of the most liberating parts of this shift is that you no longer feel the need to conform. You stop trying to be everything to everyone. Instead, you start becoming the best version of yourself, the version of you that is unafraid to take bold steps, make mistakes, and grow without the weight of others' expectations. This kind of self-assurance doesn't come from external validation. It comes from an internal knowing that you're enough exactly as you are, and that your efforts are worthy because they reflect your true intentions. The energy that comes from showing up for your goals without needing approval is contagious. People are naturally drawn to those who are living authentically, who are focused on their purpose, and who exude confidence. This doesn't mean you'll never face rejection or criticism. You will. But rejection will no longer have the same power over you, because your value is no longer tied to other people's opinions. Instead, rejection becomes a part of your journey, a necessary step on the path to your goals. The more you focus on your own goals and the less you focus on proving your worth to others, the more empowered and self-assured you become. You no longer need to measure your success by how others see you. You measure it by how you show up for yourself and how committed you are to your vision. And that, my friend, is the most powerful kind of success. The idea of growth isn't just about getting better at something. It's not about accumulating skills or checking off boxes on a to-do list. True growth happens when you challenge yourself, when you step outside your comfort zone and demand more from yourself than what feels easy. This is where the magic happens. Growth requires discomfort. It requires you to stretch beyond what you think you're capable of and to redefine what's possible for. Here and now, when you choose to chase goals instead of chasing people, you're choosing the path of growth because that path inherently demands more from you. Think about it. Growth can't happen if you stay where it's comfortable. If you stay in the same routine, surrounded by the same people, thinking the same thoughts, and doing the same things, you're going to get the same results. You may even feel safe. You may feel content. But deep down, you'll also feel stuck. You'll feel like something's missing, like there's more potential inside of you waiting to be unleashed. That's the truth for many of us. We feel the urge to expand, but we're too afraid to take the leap. We cling to what's familiar because it feels safer. But safety doesn't equate to growth. The magic happens when you choose to leave that comfort zone. That's when the real work begins. Chasing goals forces you to take action. Action that may make you uncomfortable. Action that may feel overwhelming at first, but action that always leads to growth. When you focus on your goals, you're focusing on progress, on the next step, on the person you're becoming, not just the results you're getting. People may not understand it. They may not see the changes happening behind the scenes, but the growth is happening, and it's happening because you're willing to take those uncomfortable steps. So many of us are conditioned to avoid discomfort. We think that if we feel uneasy, it means we're doing something wrong or that we're not good enough. But discomfort isn't a signal of failure. It's a sign that you're growing. It's a sign that you're challenging your limits, testing your boundaries, and stepping into the unknown. And when you step into the unknown, that's when your true potential emerges. That's when you uncover strength, resilience, and capabilities you didn't even know you had. This is why chasing goals is so powerful. Goals push you to evolve. They ask you to become someone new, someone who doesn't shrink back in fear, but steps forward in courage. Every goal you set and pursue is an opportunity to level up. Whether you're learning something new, tackling a challenge, or facing a fear, you're constantly growing. And that growth doesn't just come from the success of achieving the goal. It comes from the process. It comes from who you become in pursuit of that goal. When you stop chasing people and start chasing your goals, you begin to realize that the external validation you once craved doesn't compare to the internal satisfaction you feel from personal growth. The validation of others is fleeting. It's nice, but it's not sustainable. It doesn't feed your soul. On the other hand, the feeling of growth, the satisfaction of knowing that you pushed through resistance, that you faced your fears, that you did something you didn't think you could do, this is what gives you lasting fulfillment. People may come and go. Their approval may come and go. But the growth you experience when you chase your goals is something that stays with you. It becomes a part of who you are. It builds your character. It shapes your mindset. And most importantly, it gives you confidence, not the kind that comes from external praise, but the kind that comes from knowing you've put in the work, that you've shown up for yourself, and that you've done the hard things. Pursuing goals also teaches you resilience. Again, the road to success isn't linear. It's full of setbacks, obstacles, and challenges. But those setbacks aren't signs of failure. They're part of the journey. When you're chasing your goals, you learn how to handle rejection, how to bounce back from disappointment, how to keep going when things get tough. You don't let the fear of failure stop you because you know that failure is just feedback. It's just part of the process. Each setback is a lesson, a building block for your future success. And that resilience, that ability to keep going no matter what, is one of the most valuable qualities you can develop. There's also a deep sense of satisfaction that comes from knowing you're chasing something that's meaningful to you. Goals align with your purpose. They give your life direction. When you have clear goals, you wake up every day with a sense of intention. You're not just going through the motions, living life passively. You're actively creating the life you want. That sense of purpose is a huge driver. It gives you a reason to push through the tough days, to stay focused, and to keep moving forward. But that doesn't mean the pursuit of goals is always easy. There will be days when you question everything, when you feel like giving up, when you wonder if it's all worth it. Sick. And in those moments, it's important to remember that growth doesn't always feel good. It's not always comfortable. But if you want to grow, you have to get used to discomfort. You have to be willing to stay the course, even when it feels hard, even when you don't see immediate results, even when people don't understand what you're doing. At the end of the day, chasing your goals is the most empowering thing you can do. It's about stepping into your power, taking control of your life, and building the future you want. It's about choosing yourself, choosing your dreams, and choosing growth. And the more you focus on your goals, the less energy you'll waste chasing people or seeking approval. You'll realize that the only validation you need is the one that comes from within. You'll realize that the most important thing is not what others think of you, but what you think of yourself and the progress you're making toward your goals. That's the kind of growth that will sustain you, fuel you, and drive you forward for years to come.